new platforms and techniques and technology to try and find the best way to produce high quality content without it requiring um, all of the time and the energy to set things up, which I think is part of the fun of when we work for ourselves, is that actually all the technology that we have access to can become overwhelming. And actually, this is perhaps more about how can we optimize all of these things to get the best results without having to burn ourselves out in the process. But sometimes we hit these periods and these times where we get frozen, where I hate this phrase, we feel overwhelmed. Really don't like the phrase overwhelm. I judge it if I feel it myself, and I also know it's fine, and it's very much a part of the human experience is to feel like we don't know where to go and we feel very hazy or we feel very foggy, or what is your experience of overwhelm? And if you're listening to this episode today, we're going to be talking about what to do when you feel frozen, when you feel overwhelmed, and it really helps for you to understand what your experience of overwhelm is. What happens when you feel overwhelmed? Is it that everything gets really hazy and cloudy? Is it that you feel frazzled? Is it that you feel very stressed and tense? And is it that your mood and your energy starts to dip? So that you can also start to clock these things before they actually happen. Which is a very powerful tool, especially when you work for yourself, to understand where your energy is being drained and what you might want to do to then come back to refocus and to recalibrate. Now, overwhelm and I think this feeling of frozenness and freeze can also happen when we're about to make a change, when we're about to break through, when we're about to go somewhere new, because the body and the brain do not like change. They like comfort. So even if you are deeply stressed and deeply even depressed or deeply in a hole of self-deprecating nightmareness, it becomes such a familiar state that an alternative reality feels scary or too much effort or stressful. And so we don't change because we are so comforted and in a familiar territory when we feel all these negative things, whether that is stress and anxiety, which is a part of kind of how we're responding to life, right? So it's a part of how we are dealing with the environments that we're in. And if you've got lots of challenges that are also kind of coming at you, whether that is with navigating a life curveball, like becoming a parent or having lost a job or a relationship ending, these things suddenly kind of disrupt the status quo of life, which is why those kind of curveballs actually, when people tell their stories of their life, you'll see that there is a pattern where often incredible change has happened as a result of a curveball that's come in and forced a change beyond or before a time when someone was ready for that to happen. And I think if you were to look back on your life, you've probably got a couple of moments where you had these huge curveballs come in that at the time were incredibly difficult to navigate, but that actually enabled you to shift into a different trajectory. And it's how we handle these curveballs that then determines whether they are a positive thing or a negative thing. And sometimes we have to go through the negative experiences of the curveball to then gain the positive from it. And it's all around the mindset and the approaches and the responses that you have to the curveballs that determine how you use the curveball for good or bad. And sometimes there is a period of challenge within that. Have been very open about the time after my divorce, which I call the depth of despair, because, or depths, there were many depths, many holes of despair, because the identity changes that happened during my divorce were wild. They were massive. I had to move back home with my parents. I was suddenly in my early 30s, single, when lots of friends and were having babies and buying houses. And here I was back with my parents, unable to afford living by myself. Then there was a change in the social circle that I was in that, and actually this was one of the biggest impacts for me in my divorce, was that because as a social circle, if you've got a group of friends and there is a breakup within that group of friends, it disrupts the status quo. It disrupts how people spend their time or who they hang out with or where time is given. If you've got a group of friends where perhaps socially you would hang out with two people in a relationship, and that relationship ends, you've then got this complicated element of how do we deal with that? Because now we have not two people together, which kind of brings together the singular energy, but we have two individuals to consider, which is complicated in a social circle or a social scenario, both for the friends, for the individuals trying to navigate that, but also for the individuals, for you, if you're going through a breakup as part of that, if you're in that couple that is breaking up, that's complicated because you might have long-standing relationships with people that your partner didn't have, but now they're a part of that scene, or perhaps it's vice versa. Maybe you've got to know these people through your partner, and now it's complicated because you don't know where you stand. And emotionally, this throws up a lot. And then physiologically, that has an impact on us emotionally. And then also in terms of our identity, it challenges who we are. And the reason that I share all of this is that actually sometimes we almost have to imagine what the curveball is that we are craving to come into life, right? So it's like sometimes if you're in a relationship and you know deep down it's not really working anymore, and you're actually like, oh, kind of really don't think I'm in this now for the long run, and you want to break up, but you don't because you're scared of the impact, and then maybe your partner breaks up with you, or something comes in through the middle like a curveball that forces that breakup, that you then have to respond to. And say, for example, someone's broken up with you and you're like, but hang on, I was the one that wanted to do that. You realize that you perhaps haven't listened to that deeper trust or that intuition of what was actually going on for you, because we want to protect, we want to keep things going, we want to keep things safe. We're like, oh, well, maybe it'll be better next week, maybe we'll keep this going. And often it's because we have an identity to protect, or we have other people to consider, and we're like, oh, we don't want to cause we don't want to hurt anyone, we don't want to cause disruption to anyone else, and so we stay where we are. And this is why life curveballs can come in, especially if you've, say, for example, lost a job, and they completely and utterly disrupt your environment. Now, when you are in a decision-making process, whether that's with your business or in a relationship or even just with your health and making a change, the idea of what you will gain from that change might be incredible. It could be a dream scenario, but then you come to take the step and put the effort in, and suddenly it's like, that feels like too much work, or I'm worried about offending someone, or I'm worried it won't work, or I'm worried I'll fail, or I'm worried that this is against what I've said I will do, and suddenly I'm about to go down a different trajectory for 10 years that I said I wasn't going to go down, but it's what I really want to do. And what I'm inviting in here is this invitation of trust, of truly trusting yourself in those moments where you feel stagnant, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you're trying to do everything all at the same time and you're getting nothing done, to say, actually, what is that busyness or that procrastination or that fuzziness or that haze actually hiding from the one thing that will really move things forwards? Sometimes it's as simple as the bill that you've been putting off paying. I had someone that I was working with recently who, we were working through all of this in a session, and suddenly she was like, God, you know what? The thing that keeps coming up is the fact that I have this lingering bill from a time in my life a year ago that I'm still trying to get money from other people to help me pay, because they were also responsible. It was like from a time when they were all living together and other people hadn't paid their part of a bill. And it was, the weight of that was on her shoulders, but the weight of that and not fully dealing with it properly, kind of just hoping it would go away, was draining her energy in her career and in all the other decisions that she was going to make. And what she decided to do in that session was to face this challenge and to contact those people to say, you owe me money, which she had done before and they had ignored her. So there's also this thing of reciprocated kind of communication. Sometimes it gets to a point where people are not actually listening, or that you feel like you're very much in it by yourself. And actually it comes to a point where it's better to at least try than to wonder about what would happen if people paid this bill, or if you, did decide to quit your job. Because ultimately what will happen is that if we don't face up to this, something is going to happen anyway, whether that's your health continuing to decline, your mood continuing to be impacted negatively, your energy to be negatively impacted. If we don't face these things, we will continue to remain frozen because we are not taking a step in any direction. So when you have that moment of when you feel like you do not know where to go, and trust me, I know this because this has prompted, I felt like this the last couple of days, which has prompted this episode, because even those of us who have tons of experience with all this mindset work and all of this behavioural change work, as I have, will still experience it, because we are all humans. And we forget this because what we're seeing online is obviously the finished product, or what we're seeing in the world and in marketing and all this kind of stuff is the finished product of these decisions that people have made behind the scenes that they haven't shared about. And the reason I'm so transparent about all of this kind of decision making that goes on with Club Thrive is that it really helps to show you that actually we're all very similar, and it helps to level out the playing field, whilst also saying, but also, what are you avoiding? What are you actually avoiding in what you want? And for me, there have been changes I've been wanting to make, I think, for the membership and for the direction of Club Thrive, which I have been not avoiding making, just not making perhaps as quickly as I could do to move the things forwards that need to be moved forward. So I've got into this frozen, stuck state where it's like, now I just don't know where to start, and I feel like I'm in a mess again. And this is this kind of continuous cycle that we can get stuck in as well when we're making decisions that aren't quite aligned with what we want to do. So if you're making decisions that are like 90% of what you want, but there is that 10% missing, you are going to find yourself back in this stuck state and this freeze state because you are not 100% going all in on your decision making. And it doesn't mean to say that the decision has to be big. It just means that when you are 100% committed to your intuition, to your self-trust, to those things that you know are coming into your brain that you want to do, but then everything else is saying, oh, but hang on, what about this? What about that? What about if this happens? What about if that happens? What happens if I, for example, break up with this person and then I never meet anyone ever again, and then I'm single and there's no one I'm going to have a baby with? Those things are keeping you stuck because you'll come back in, you'll start to pretend that you're happy when you're not. You'll come back in and you'll start to pretend you're happy in your business when you're not. The equivalent with a business or a career decision might be that you play it slightly small, or you communicate just slightly off, or you're not quite as direct as what you really want to be, which inhibits that reciprocated communication back. The yes, the yeah, I want to work with you, or in a relationship sense, someone saying, maybe I've also felt this too. Oh my God, what a relief sometimes when you share that with someone, in a partnership where you're actually very honest and you hear it back and you realize that you haven't been imagining things. And there's this sense that if we're not being honest with what we're feeling and we're not communicating that, we carry it like an untruth in our soul and in our body. And that is what drains your energy. And it's also where, from the conditioning side of things as women or as individuals, with gender or with stereotypes or with the systems in which we live and the life that we live, we get stuck based on what we think we're allowed to do, what we think we should do, what we think we need to be, or who we think we need to be in order to be likable, to be palatable, to be good, to be nice. Because we also have these strong values about being decent people. So it's also about acknowledging where you're stuck and frozen because you're also considering everyone else before yourself. And what if actually, say for example, you've had these strong urges to cancel some of the subscriptions that you have financially because you're suddenly like, actually, or not suddenly, maybe this has been a massively long thought process. You're like, well, actually, I'm spending all of this money on my business, but I'm not spending any money on myself. What if I flip the switch on the thinking and I spend some money on myself, and that elevates my self-worth, and actually that helps me to get more clients because I am then valuing myself more. So I'm talking about myself more positively. I'm dressing myself in a slightly different way. I'm showing up with a different energy, and that's going to attract in those people that currently you're not getting, which is keeping you stuck in a frozen state because you don't think you can do your job or your work that you really want to do, because you're not getting that reciprocated feedback, because you're also censoring yourself. So when you get into these stuck states, I really want you to imagine what it's like on the other side of that stuck state. And this happens with health as well. So if you're looking to change your fitness, you're looking to get fitter and stronger, and you go to do a workout and you just don't have the motivation, you don't feel like doing it, we get stuck because we're also then guided by emotions all the time. And it's not to say that emotions are bad. It's just to say when we constantly just allow ourselves to not do something because we don't feel like it, we stay stuck. It keeps us frozen. Me not sending out a regular email keeps me stuck, keeps me frozen because I want to do it, but I'm not doing it. But I also want to say lots of things, but I'm also trying to doing it based on what everyone else says I should do it in terms of their schedule. Where is the air to breathe? It does not exist. And so we get to create our lives and our businesses and our health and our family time around what we want, not based on what anyone else is telling you to do. And this is why within this podcast, I really try hard to help you figure out what you want to do, like I would do with a coaching client, like I would do with anyone that I work with, to say, here is some information. How can you use this information to get clear on what you want? Rather than me saying to you, you need to, on a Monday morning, go and break up with your boyfriend, write an email to, everyone on your list every Monday morning. You need to also do your podcast on a Wednesday. You need to do a workout on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And you also need to eat like this on a Friday and a Saturday. Because if that doesn't fit into you, you're going to keep trying it and it's not going to work, and you're going to get frozen over and over and over again, because without realizing it, you're trying to replicate how everyone else is telling you to work. And I have experienced this so many times. And that's why these periods of frozenness are an invitation to change our habits. They're an invitation to change trying to be productive. They're an invitation to say, I'm frigging looking at my laptop. I'm not getting anything done. I am going to close that laptop today and I'm going to go out into that sunshine, which is what I did yesterday, because my focus was just absolutely tanking. My brain was fuzzy. I couldn't see what I was doing. And I just was like, I just don't want to do this. There comes a point where we do actually have to get that stuff done. So, I do actually need to finish the workshop that I was really struggling to finish yesterday. But I will do that in a better way by clearing the path of all these other things that I had to get done. I had to do some life admin. I had to prioritize booking some stuff. I had to pay some bills. I had to just go out and just rest my eyes, because my eyes, for whatever reason yesterday, were just not connecting with my brain. When you allow yourself to truly and utterly connect in with yourself in that moment of freeze, in that moment of your overwhelm, to say, what is it actually that I really need to get done? There will always be something that comes to mind that you have been avoiding most of the time, whether that is rest, whether that is just sitting and staring out the window, whether that is actually paying off those bills or booking that logistical stuff that you've been thinking about for months and you just haven't got it done, whether it is just writing it all down, whether it is acknowledging some feelings that you have been pushing down and down and down in the changes that you want to make in your life, whether that's from your relationship, your job, your business, your time, your rates, your money situation, your spending. All of these things will be draining your energy without even realizing it, because it's unconscious. So we must bring the unconscious to the surface, whether that's mentally or physically in the body, which is why surrendering and relaxing into the body is so powerful, because it allows all of this stuff to come up. Your body carries so much wisdom. Your mind carries so much wisdom. And it absolutely is all about the future visioning. It is about imagining, dreaming, understanding what helps you feel good, understanding what the dream is, to then say, okay, well, how much of what I'm doing right now is the clutter stopping me from actually getting there? And how much am I avoiding that's actually going to clear that clutter to be in a place where I have that space to really create the life I want to create? So I'm going to bring things to a close here. But just know that if you're in a frozen state, it does not mean that you are bad, wrong, or on the wrong track. It might actually mean that I take that last statement back. It might mean that you are actually on the wrong track. It might mean that you are forcing things. So that last statement was really wrong. It might mean that you are on the wrong track, because it might mean that you are ignoring, pushing down, hiding from what you truly want and what you truly need. And that resistance to change that's coming up is because your body and your brain likes to keep you safe. And that if you allowed that resistance to just drop a little bit, you will gain the answers to what it is that you're trying to kind of avoid, fight, or even change. You will gain the answers to the problems that you're trying to solve. All from surrendering in that moment to not just cram everything into doing all the time. This is the invitation to shut the laptop, to walk away from the productivity kind of treadmill, to understand that as humans, your creativity and your ability to thrive comes from your energy and your mood, which impacts your self-belief and your confidence. And this is what's going to help you to take those steps that feel terrifying, that feel like you don't know what the outcome is going to be, that breakup, that you don't know what the other side is going to be, but you just cannot stop but no, but like really connecting into that trust that you have in yourself, that voice inside that you are not happy. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the breakup. Maybe it's the communication of that, whether it's to a journal or to a friend or to someone that you trust who's not going to tell you what to do. Because this is the other thing as well, is that no one truly understands your experience apart from yourself. So when you're sharing these challenges, just be mindful of who you're sharing them with. Because sometimes we can share our intentions with someone, and if their intention is to keep someone else safe, or their judgments aren't quite at a place where they can fully get you, they're going to share things back to you that are going to make you doubt yourself potentially. So it's also about acknowledging that when you share information with other people, take their comments and just understand that it's coming from their perspective too. It's not to say that our friends don't know like what to do. It's just to say that when you're sharing information with people, be conscious of what your deeper desire is before perhaps you share. Because what happens when we don't really trust ourselves as well is that we're super incredibly susceptible to what other people feed back to us. Because when we don't trust ourselves, we're looking for someone else to validate us anyway. We're looking for someone else to tell us we're right or we're wrong. So if we're sharing with someone in the hope that they're going to tell us what to do, and they tell us the thing that we actually don't want to do. So say, for example, you're saying to someone, I just don't think this job is right for me anymore. I'm really unhappy. And they say, yeah, but what are you going to do? How are you going to pay your rent? Your thought is then immediately going to go to, well, I should not leave this job. That is a terrible idea. Rather than it being an empowered thought of how can I make this a better scenario for me to earn more money, to be happier, might not even be earning more money. It might be like the job is paying you tons of money, but you're just stressed all the time. To really get clear on actually what's going to help you thrive before anything else. Because when you focus on that as the outcome, thriving, feeling happy, feeling fulfilled, feeling accomplished, feeling great in yourself, you can then work backwards to understand what the best decision is in this moment of freeze. Oh, okay, I need to go and frigging cross that bill off that I've been avoiding paying. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to be conscious of paying this bill. I have, the money to pay for this bill as a conscious reframe around paying a bill. I have the money to pay this bill. I'm grateful I have the money to pay the bill, rather than, oh my God, I don't have the money to pay this bill, which could also be true. But consciously, you are then feeding in the information to your body that you are grateful for something. That's going to give you energy rather than draining energy and creating more stress. Because if you're paying bills saying, I don't have the money to pay this bill, I'm stressed about paying this bill, that is going to be the energy you take into the rest of your day. And everything is going to be all about, I do not have, I am. And it's not to say that this isn't a true part of your life. This is to say we pay with gratitude and we acknowledge that we're not happy about our financial situation, so that we can then focus on making a change to our financial situation. It gives you the energy and the outlook of solution-orientated living rather than problem-solving crux of the matter all the time. You will solve the problems when you enable your brain, or you create the mindset and you develop your thinking to become so solution orientated, so forward thinking, so open-minded, so I can solve anything, that you have the energy and the power and the insight to come at these challenges with a much broader perspective, which enables you to actually see things that you wouldn't have even seen before in what you could do with future creation for work, in changing your lifestyle to not have, perhaps you're going to the pub every week and it's like actually you suddenly realise that you're spending £30 on a bottle of wine that you could spend a tenner on having the same experience, having a nice glass of wine at home. And then you've got that £20 extra every week, that over the month, that's 80 quid. Over the year, that's £1,000. And that if you do that with 4 or 5 things, suddenly you're like, oh my God, I do not have this financial problem after all. It's still a financially challenging situation, but oh my God, I've got all of this extra stuff. So it's always about these kind of decisions that we make, and it gives you more empowerment to then have more freedom with the choices that you make. Likewise in a relationship, likewise in a business, likewise with your career, it gives you the bravery and the courage to make decisions that are not necessarily, that don't make sense to everyone. But you know that when you make that decision, it's going to free up all of this energy, all of this clarity, all of this kind of space to make a better thing happen. So when you're frozen, when you feel stuck, do something different. We are so overstimulated now. We are so brain frazzled with the content that we are consuming, with the news and with the energy and with the environments, that sometimes we just need to get out of the environment to get a new insight. So it might be that you close your laptop and you go for a walk. It might be that you do treat yourself to that coffee after weeks of kind of not doing that because you have been saving. Maybe it is a treat to reward yourself for that saving, to say, actually, I'm going to go and enjoy this coffee and just recognize how hard I have worked to be able to save for it. Whether it is actually to say, oh, I've built this business and actually I don't know if these are the type of people I am best to work for. But I have discovered that now, which is great. It's great when you find out things that aren't working. Wonderful, wonderful news, wonderful insight to then be able to say, okay, this isn't working. Excellent. I can park that. I can put that away, clear the space, look at this direction I now can go in, because I have all of that information that I would not have had I not tried. So that with every thought process you're then creating, you're creating opportunity. You are realizing just how capable you are. You are able to look back and reflect, say, oh, I survived that actually. And I didn't just survive, I've gained all of these tools and these experiences from that, which I can now use with this next decision-making process. And this validation of life before it needing to be about the money, this validation of life for energy and for fulfillment. Yes, we have to make money. Yes, it's true. But also, how stuck are we on just trying to get things done all the time, trying to send all the emails? And how can we do it differently? How can you make connections with people in a very different way? It's why we have the membership, so that you can also make friends. Is it actually you want to make some friends? Are you feeling a bit lonely? And actually, is the haze that you're experiencing the fact that you feel really isolated? Interesting. But you won't discover that until you stop, until you allow these feelings to come up. Because often in the haze and the freeze of where you are, when you're trying to kind of move forwards, is that we are avoiding something that we really need to face. And sometimes we just need to sit with that a little bit. Sometimes it does require just allowing ourselves to have a bit of time for these things to come up, to be able to then process them so we're not so reactive. And this is also true when you feel like you don't have time. Maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a carer, maybe you're using your age against you. We have so much more time than what our brains make us think. And the fast-paced nature of life is feeding into the subconscious element of we don't have time. So again, when you feel hazy, when you feel blocked, shift a habit somewhere. Just shift something. Go and do something different. Change your environment, change your music, have a shower. Go and eat something somewhere else. Go and treat yourself to something nice. Go and decide to not treat yourself because you've been treating yourself far too much and it's challenging you financially. And then be proud of that choice. Yesterday, I decided to shut the laptop and I went to sit by the pool in the afternoon in town, because I knew I needed to change a habit of what I was doing. I was trying to just do everything and I wasn't getting anything done. And it was a choice to go and enjoy some of the sunshine, in alignment with the fact that in a couple of summers' time, I'm going to be a stay-at-home parent probably, because it's summer holidays and I want to be there for my daughter. And this is part of that plan. This is part of that future visioning. And that sometimes these things take a bit of time to come to fruition as well. But I know that part of this overwhelm and this frustration for me has been the changes that I'm making with my identity, and the changes that I'm bringing into Club Thrive, and the changes that I'm bringing into my personal life, and allowing these things to be an extension of me. Where are you blocking your own true free expression? Where is that stumping you? Where is that keeping you stuck? Where is that driving frustration? Where are you living as if you are a whole gender versus you and your wants? And where is perhaps all of that unconscious conditioning keeping you stuck? What is it you want to do? What is it you need in this moment? Sit with that question. What do I need? Every day when you get stuck, because sometimes this happens a lot, what do I need? What am I craving? Come back to that question, and day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, your life will change exponentially. Trust me. I have been there, I'm living it, and I practice that myself. What do I need? I need space. I need quiet. I need decompression. I need less stimulation. Okay, let's go make that happen. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please do come and follow at Club Thrive _. If you would like to change your life, if you would like to do that in a year, don't take 10 like I did. But look, listen, we are a constant evolution, right? So actually the intention is to help you make radical changes, but to be there for the whole like journey of your life if you want it, because we will evolve alongside you. This is the beauty of Club Thrive. The beauty of Club Thrive is that we will continue to evolve as you continue to evolve. And when we do it together and you're with like-minded people who are also doing that, who are living a thriving life because they can, because they want to, because this is what we're capable of doing when we allow ourselves and give ourselves the permission to do it, what could be better than that? Very little. So do come follow us at club5_. If you would like to know more about Years to Change Your Life, the details are in the show notes. Please do like and share the podcast. I would love for more and more people to realise how accessible changing your life is. This is why I give as much content for free as I can, whilst also acknowledging that sometimes, it's time to invest in ourselves properly. And when you are ready to do that, we are here to meet you with that kind of proposal. Not proposal, we're here to meet you with that desire. And we're going to help you really step into your fullest potential as well. Because that's what we're here for. That's what we help you do. Thank you so much. Have a lovely week. Do come say hi on social media. I'm very active on it, probably far too active, at club5_. And what do you need today? Go and sit with that and give yourself permission to create it. Okay, have a great one. Lots of love, and I'll see you next week. Bye.